Hey guys, this is Jason Creel and you're watching The Lawn Care Life. I wanted to talk to you about how to start a lawn care business if you have no money or you have very little money to work with. So if that's your situation, or if you just want to hear what I tell people in that situation, then stay tuned to this video. I want to remind you about a couple of links in the description. One is to Jobber, the software. If you're looking for a lawn care software, go check that out. And the other is Jobber Academy, which has a lot of videos and articles, some that I've participated in. You can check out those links in the description. All right, so you want to start a lawn business, but you don't have a lot of money. Well, you know, I had somebody ask me the other day, he said, you know, how much money do I need to start a business, you know? And I was saying, well, you know, lawn business, it just depends. It depends on how much you want to spend. I mean, you can start with very little or you can spend a lot, you know, so it's hard to put an amount on that. But, you know, for many of you, for many people, they don't have a lot to invest and they want their own business. I think the lawn business is one of the best businesses to start without a lot of money to invest, because you really don't need a lot to invest and you can still grow it and eventually make a lot of money and be very successful. So if you don't have a lot of money, what do you do? How do you get going in this industry? Well, if you literally have no money, let me tell you first what I wouldn't do. If I had no money, but let's say somehow you had decent credit, I personally would not go finance, you know, a big nice zero-turn mower. I think it's important for you to get a taste of the business and see if this is something that you want to do. So I would start smaller. Doesn't mean you have to be less aggressive or less you know, less aggressive or not trying to grow the business as fast as you can, but you could start smaller and possibly getting some type of loan, whether from an individual or however you can do it. But if you were able just to buy a push mower, a string trimmer, a backpack blower, and you could even just put that in the back of a pickup truck without even having to have a trailer. So you could start with very low income. So maybe if you were able to borrow that money. The other option is if you had somebody, maybe a relative, who would be willing to loan you a lawnmower, loan you a little bit of lawn care equipment, then that's a way you can get started. You know, that's not something you're going to want to do long term, and that's not something that somebody's probably going to want to loan you something long term. But maybe in the short term, just until you can get those first 10 or 20 customers and get some income rolling in, and then you can go out and start purchasing. Then you can go out and start purchasing your own equipment. So I've kind of hinted at the equipment you need. Let me talk about a couple other things that are going to be important to remember when you're starting a lawn care business, especially if you have little money. If I was starting out and I had a little money and I was going to start with a push mower, I would target the small lawns. Now, I've often said on here that I think the small lawns are the most profitable. That's the case for me doing weed control. That's the case when you're doing mowing. I mean, not always. There's advantages to bigger lawns, you know, but just for sheer profit margin when you're starting out, and not just for that, but for the sake of using a push mower, I would say focus on those small lawns. If you found a neighborhood that had hundreds of small lawns, maybe you're able to pick up quite a few of those in your first year, and you start to build that route density. And because you're using a push mower, a small lawn is not going to be as much of a time killer as a big lawn will. You know, a zero-turn mower is going to be a huge advantage on a larger property, but it's not that much of an advantage on a small property. So I would target the smaller lawns. Another thing to remember when you're starting off with little to no money, and this is really no matter how much money you have, but you got to do a good job from the very beginning. I mean, you can't afford to lose a customer in that situation. So you want to make sure, hey, I'm small, you know, I'm a little disadvantaged. You know, of course you don't want to say that to the customer, that you make sure that that property looks great before you leave, so that customer's satisfied. And hopefully they can help you get other customers by referring their neighbors and that sort of thing. Another thing to remember, if you're starting off with no money, you need to be as aggressive as you can in your marketing. You know, there's some marketing techniques that companies use that work, that it can be expensive. For instance, sometimes direct mail campaigns can be successful, but they can be also very expensive. Online advertising, whether through Google ads or Facebook advertising, those things work, but they can run up a bill. So you may not be able to afford those things. So you may, starting off with no money, have to look into what can I do that's very low cost. Well, that means going door to door. Perhaps you can afford to get at least some business cards printed or possibly some postcards, and you can go door to door and put those out. Like I said, you can actually ring the doorbell and talk to people for free, you know, but that can be somewhat intimidating sometimes. You can be active in Facebook groups. You know, that's a way that people can get business to get going. People use Craigslist. You know, those are things you can do for free, and there's some other low-cost options out there. I personally think thumbtack.com is a good low-cost option, a way to get some business. So, you know, there's some things you can do for very low cost and sometimes even free. Another thing to consider when starting a lawn business with little to no money is you might want to consider getting a part-time job. I would probably recommend that. I've done that a couple of times when I started my business, and sometimes even you might can work for another lawn business, you know, if it's somebody that you know and they know that, hey, I'm starting my own business, but I do have 1 or 2 days a week that I'd be available to help you. That's a way that you could sort of learn the skill, learn from somebody else. They may hopefully wouldn't feel threatened by you as a new competitor. So I've done that a couple of times, and it helped me to be able to learn from somebody else while at the same time being able to build my business, and I was able to make a little extra income to supplement my income while I got my business off the ground. So that's an idea. If you can't work for another lawn care company, just any kind of part-time job, maybe even one that works in the evening times, so that you have your daytime freed up to build your lawn care business. And the last thing I'd say about starting a lawn business with no money is let that be a motivating factor to you. You know, let that drive you that, hey, I don't have much money, but I want to be successful in this, so I'm going to work as hard as I can to get some money coming in. You know, think about that when you're out there pushing that lawn. Think, you know what, I can't wait till next year when I'm going to be able to afford to go buy me a 0-turn mower, when I'm going to be able to have some nicer equipment. You know, so I think that should be your fueling, motivating factor to drive you to reaching that success. So, you know what, it's possible. You hear success stories, people starting off with a push mower and very small in the lawn business, and they go on to have a lot of success. It's certainly possible. You may have to make up for having the lack of equipment, lack of money. You can make some of that up by just working harder and trying to grow as quickly as possible to get that income coming up, so that you could then quit that part-time job and dedicate yourself full-time to your lawn care business. A good reminder is that, you know, if you get it up off the ground, it's successful. I think for most people in the lawn business would tell you, you know what, it's going to be worth it in the long run. You might have to endure that first year till you can make some income and keep your eye on the prize of what it will be like to have a successful lawn business one day. One other thing I want to mention is if you're starting off in the lawn care business and you don't have a lot of money, don't do some very cheap looking flyers and things. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have a clip art logo slapped on a piece of paper. I would rather not have a flyer at all, or not have a logo at all, or, you know, just, I would avoid that before I put a bad image out there. You know what I'm saying? So just be careful of what you put out there, because of the perception that it gives the potential customer. Hope this video is helpful. Hope it's motivating to you. I would love to hear some success stories from you guys. If some of you started off very meager income and had little equipment to work with and have now been successful, if you could leave that in the comments, I think that might be an encouragement to some of those who are starting off this year. If you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel. I'll continue to provide helpful content for you, and you can check out these suggested videos. Thanks a lot.